Today we have Kelsey with Adorn Montana. We're so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
First of all, we're glad you opted to come onto the podcast with us. We're grateful you're here. And to start things off, we just kind of wanted to get to know you more. Like, how did Adorn Montana start? How did you get into weddings? What's kind of your story? What did that look like?
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me.
Yeah.
So this is uncharted waters for me, so I'm excited to be here. So, I am born and raised here in Billings, and Adorn really started pretty organically. My degree is in education. I have an elementary ed degree from University of Montana. And, I always tease that it comes in handy for the bridal party if they've had too much fun and I need to get everybody lined up and hands to yourself, and I can use my teacher voice if I need to. But, I worked at our family's furniture store in Missoula when I was in college. And that's where I really cultivated that love of decorating and color and pattern and just all the things that come with styling and design. And it just kind of, like I said, evolved naturally. Friends would ask me like, hey, would you help me with, decorate this room? What do you think about this furniture? What do you think about this color palette? And I would give them my opinion. And then from that, I actually got like real regular clients and people asking me just for my opinion on things. And then I kind of jumped to porch decorating, of all things. It's so random.
No, but that's so fun.
It was so fun, but it was also super cold and a lot of spiders, neither of which I don't like spiders and I don't like the cold. And so I'm like, I'm out. I can't do this anymore. And again, a friend asked me, I had decorated her home and her porch, and she said, hey, my daughter's getting married out at Camelot Ranch. Would you ever help us? Mm-hmm. And honestly, I'm like, yeah, like, why haven't I ever thought of this? Yeah, I would love to do a wedding. I've always thrown like pretty ridiculous parties, to be honest.
Yeah.
My kid's first birthday, I'm the one that has, the little cutout cheeses in the shapes of ones. And, every little last detail, I was all about it. And the color, everything had to be like in my color scheme. And I was quite ridiculous. I still am.
Love that.
But that's how it kind of evolved. People would say like, hey, you should do this for a living. And I'm like, well, how am I supposed to party for a living? I don't get it. And then when this wedding thing hit me, I'm like, oh, yeah. So anyway, I did her daughter's wedding. And from there was actually 2 other brides who asked me, do you do this for a living? Would you help us?
Yeah.
And from there, that was, I guess, during COVID, right after like the lockdowns were lifted. So it's been about 4 years now that I've been going strong and I haven't looked back.
That's awesome.
Like, I love it, and I can't imagine doing anything else now.
I love that.
So,
well, we have heard like the most amazing things from like other planners you've worked with, venues. We've just heard like glowing things about you.
Thank you.
Obviously, that's a testament to how much or how well you do your work and how much you love it, and it's awesome.
I said if I could get paid in like words of affirmation, it would be enough for me. It means so much to me. It genuinely does, because I put everything into these weddings, and I treat them. I tell my brides, I'm like, I treat it as if it were my own.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's yours,
right?
I'm not trying to steal your thunder, but
heart.
I just care that much. So I want them to know that like I will give you every single thing I have when I style and service your wedding. So
I love that.
It's fun.
That's so cool.
So what do your packages look like? Do most couples do rentals from you, or do you just kind of source the items that you're going to decorate with?
I'm kind of forging my own path, to be honest with you, and I'm still figuring out what works and what doesn't. But for the most part, I've found, and this goes against like what our industry tells us to do, right? They're like, you can only do packages and just, that's it. You're putting way too much time into it if you're doing it all individual, if you're giving every bride a proposal. But for me, I have to be like true to what works for me. Yeah. And so I do, when I write up a proposal for a couple, it's pretty specific to what they want. And I tell them like, hey, you can line through things. I want them to know like gosh, you guys know, I mean, everything is so expensive right now, right? And so if I can show them a large chunk of this proposal is just the, like, you know, what it's going to take to make it happen. That doesn't even include me. So I do right now, I'm working for an hourly rate. And right now it's working. Like, I really like where I'm at. And, you know, I'm maybe someday down the road, I will just offer packages. But for right now, I've found that, like, couples really appreciate that, like, hey, if I don't need, you know, linens from you, if maybe they're being provided from the venue, then that's fine. And I try to be real flexible, and it's just my personality. Like, I've thought about doing it the other way. I've even tried it the other way, and I'm like, you know what? It's just not for me, and I have to do, like, what works for me and what I feel good about. So, yeah, that's kind of how my pricing works. Again, that might change. You know, sometimes these proposals are 4 hours long where I'm just, you know, because every wedding is just so different. But I really want to nail it for them.
Yeah, so that's awesome. We actually do custom packages. We don't offer any, like, because I think that that's amazing that you do that, because nobody's going to be paying for things they don't necessarily want to try and fit into this bubble.
Right.
So I think that that's amazing. And I love that that's unique about you, because I do think packages, I honestly think that the industry is going to go more that way, because clients are looking for more of an experience, right? And so, like, that gives them an experience. I think that's amazing.
I think so. And I, as a bride, I think, like, I would appreciate that so much. I'm very transparent on my pricing. In fact, I even tell couples, I'm like, you know what? Build your dream wedding. I want you to get online, and whether it be, Amazon or Event Decor Direct, like, whatever website you want to use, build your wedding, put it all in your cart, and you tell me what you come up with. And I'm basically paying for myself, because I do offer rentals, you know, and I'm finding, like, I pay for myself.
Yeah.
So my service, I'm like, you know, if I just throw a number at you, you're going to go, oh, wow, that sounds like a lot. And by the time, I always say, by the time, you don't know what you don't know. And by the time you know it, it's probably too late. It's probably the day of your wedding, you know? Yeah. So by the time they have figured out, like, wow, this is all added up, we should have just paid her to do it. You know, she does pay for herself. So
yes. And even, like, going above that, because, like, we have talked to, you know, so many vendors doing this podcast, and every time we go back to when they talk to couples, like past couples or couples that didn't end up booking them, but then they've run into them and things, that they are not paying, maybe not in a dollar amount, but they're paying in this time and the stress.
Absolutely.
And your mom's not gonna love the wedding. They're going to be stressed, because they're the one. If it doesn't fall on the couple, it falls on the family, and then they are stressed and doing that. So I think that that's so true. Not only are they paying for your expertise, but they're also paying in, like, you know, the what am I trying to say? John,
I'm giving them the gift of time.
Yes.
That's what I feel like. You know, I say, like, those, like, when push comes to shove, and it's the day of, and things aren't going exactly as planned, that bride and that groom, they are going to lean on the people they love the most, and they're going to boss them around and tell them, you know. And so those people who are closest to them and should be with them enjoying the day, they're off at the venue, you know, putting up centerpieces, and you know, it's a shame. And I've seen it so many times, even with my own mom. I got married almost 20 years ago, and I'll be honest, I say, like, gosh, I wish I would have had me. It just really wasn't a thing. It just, maybe it was, but I didn't know about it. It wasn't like it is
if you
now.
were in this area, it wasn't as prevalent.
I was in Missoula. We got married at the church, but then went up to Marshall Ski Resort. I had my husband building a dance floor, like, bless his heart, you know, like, my mom was doing everything, and I just had no idea. But that's something, I can't get that back, you know, I can't get that time back with her. And I have, like, major remorse about that, where I'm like, oh man, it would have been worth any amount of money just to have my mom with me while I was getting my hair and makeup done. And, you know, and she came in hot. She came in, you know, just in time to see me get in my dress. And poor thing, like, I guess I just was not mindful of the fact that, like, hey, when it's said and done, either I just, you know, drove off and, she was left there with, my family, my loved ones, aunts and uncles who are all in their 70s. And, I'm asking them to haul out linens and, again, centerpieces and backdrops and all these ridiculous things that, no, I would not do that to my family.
Yeah.
Knowing now, what I know now if I'd known it then.
Yes.
So.
Yes. And that, we agree because it sounds like we had a similar experience with our wedding is like, my mom hates, we've talked about this multiple times on this. My mom hates weddings because there's 4 of us kids and all but like my oldest brother, she did everything. And so that's what it's like, you do the checklist and it's something to get through, not something to enjoy.
Right.
And so, that's what I really feel that planners and like beautiful setups and things like that really bring to the table is that the family doesn't have to do it.
Right. It's huge. Like I said, it's the gift of time and it's the gift of like, you get to be together. And they don't even know if anything's going wrong, they have no idea. They're just up there like, having their mimosas and their breakfast or whatever it may be. The guys are drinking a beer and I'm like, I got it. Like, you're not going to know that anything's wrong. Like, I'm a problem solver too. So I'm like, nope. Yeah.
So we work with a lot of planners who are like also designers, or you're just focused more on the design aspect of things?
Yeah, and again, it's kind of been this like process for me to figure out like where I'm needed and what I like to do. The styling is my favorite part. Like, I absolutely love it. I love to make beautiful things. I love to make spaces look beautiful. So that's where I really like to put my focus. And for a while there, I was trying to wear many hats and say like, hey, I can help you with, some timelines. I can do this, I can do that. And I just felt like I was putting a little bit in every cup and it just wasn't, I wasn't giving the service that I wanted to. So I'm really trying to focus on just the styling. So
I was just kind of going to ask, what does that process kind of look like when you are working with a planner and collaborating on that?
Yeah, it's great. And I've done it many times. Like we just, I always have mock-ups for all my brides and grooms. Like we meet, it's not a fancy setup by any stretch of the imagination, but we meet and I set up tables and they're oftentimes, their coordinator, another planner is with them. And that's great. I mean, we can work together and there's enough to go around for everybody. So I'm all about like, hey, let's work together to make this couple's like dream wedding come true. So yeah, but for me, like I guess a typical, like the wedding day, I mean, I've already put, 25, 30 hours into this wedding, and like day of, I'm up at 6, I'm there at 7:30, make sure that I'm waiting, with my trailer, like backed up to the front door so that right at 8 a.m. or whatever time they let me in, I'm like ready to load in and I hit the ground running. I wear my tennis shoes and my leggings and I just go for it. And
I love that.
I'm just busy decorating all morning long. And that's like one of these huge things. I'm like, no one knows how much time it takes.
Yeah.
And I want to keep my photographers happy too. So I always like start at the head table and like get everything ready so that it can be just ready to go for, as soon as you all walk in and you're ready because you're on a timeline too. And again, these are things that like, we're on borrowed time. So it's like we are just constantly moving and shaking and getting it done. And I literally run. And I always say I put in about 30,000 steps. By the time my watch turns over at midnight, I've already put in 30,000 steps and I'm still loading a trailer. So it's just like, the physical part of my job is tremendous. But I love it.
So is it all you or do you have a team? Do you have people that come and help you?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, it's me. My husband, he's like, how did I get this second job?
They all do.
Right? He's like, oh, how did this? I didn't think I'd be a wedding stylist or planner, but he's wonderful. He'll help me with all the heavy lifting, but I don't leave. I stick around. So I'm there all night. I'll bus tables. I'm not above anything. I don't mind doing any of it. So because I'm a one-man show, I know that I need to be more hands-on, and I don't really have the luxury of going home for 5 or 6 hours. So I just stick it out and get it done.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I've yet to like miss a deadline of being out on time, and I just figure out a way to do it.
Which that is so huge. Is that with like a decorator or even a planner that like they can go hard and party, the couple and the wedding party and the family, because so many times too I've heard like, oh, but then we have to go back and tear down, or they're hungover the next day, we have to go back and tear down.
Yes.
And it's such a pain, and I feel like that is like such a huge bonus.
Huge.
Is
I
the tear
can't
down.
tell you how many times too that someone a couple will tell me, oh, our bridal party's going to help. And I think to myself, oh, but are they?
Yeah.
Because honestly, when it's said and done and the time comes around and they've been having fun all night, I mean, I know these are your best friends and your brothers and sisters, but they're out. They leave and you're like, well, where's so-and-so? They said they'd be here to help tear down. And more often than not, it just doesn't happen. Yeah. And so then there's a charge for that. And then there's, again, more stress on those people who, probably shouldn't be climbing a ladder. And, it's like your parents or grandparents or whoever else. And, trying to help haul things out in their heels and dresses. And, it's not worth it.
Yeah.
It's really not. I'm like,
so agree.
Put it on me. Like I said, and my husband, I really, it's taken me a long time to like confidently say like, I'm worth it.
Yeah.
I'm absolutely worth it. It's taken me longer than
you are worth it.
And I know that sound, it doesn't mean like, I don't ever want it to sound like boastful or braggy, but I'm like, I'm worth it, because I have seen the other side of it where these couples are, everyone's exhausted and at each other's throats. And then I'm like, did you really enjoy the day? Like at the end of all this, like what it's really about is just the two of you like enjoying each other and enjoying this is like the only time when like your really close friends and family are all together just to celebrate you. Like what a beautiful moment. And, to have that like stripped away by having to, worry about who's going to, dump out the cylinders and, throw away, scrape the wax off the linens.
Yeah.
Those are things that you do not want to worry about.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. And even if a bridal party is like the most helpful, amazing bridal party during the day, they're not good. They're tired.
They're tired.
Yeah. So I think that's huge. Yeah.
Like I get it.
I love that you offer that and that's like part of your service, because it's so, so huge.
It is.
How like early in the process do you recommend brides coming to you to talk about their design and what they want on the wedding day?
Yeah, I feel like there's kind of that sweet spot. Sometimes I get brides who are a year and a half out and they want to plan it all, and I'm like, let's pump the brakes just a little bit, because their style may change, their colors may change, and it kind of changes the whole look of the wedding. So I think at about that 6-month mark is where we really start to refine like what they want, and then I'm constantly checking in. I feel like too, if we're a year out, which is fine, we can go a year out, but I say it's a lot of like, we have to secure all these vendors, and then there's some wait time. It's like there'll be a little bit of a lull. And I tell my clients, like, I don't mind, contact me whenever you want. Again, probably goes against industry standards, but I'm like, for me, it works. I'm like, you let me know if something's on your mind, or if you want to talk about something, shoot me a text message, shoot me an email. I get back to you when I can. And as long as we have that like common understanding that like, I'll get to you as soon as I can get to you. It works. Again, it's, it's just kind of how I operate. So yeah, but I think that like 6-month mark, and then I start telling them like 1 month out from your wedding, I bother you a lot. Like I will send you, and I always ask them like, how do you like to communicate? Most anymore it's, text message or whatever, but I'll send them a text. I'll be like, here's your like 6 questions of the day. You need to answer X, Y, and Z. And then, as I'm going through and kind of refining everything, that's how we make it work.
I love that.
So I try to be, it's informal, but it's not, it's friendly and it's approachable, and it's like, and I don't mind. I'm like, hey, you change your mind on that? Fine. Let's switch it up. So, I'm fine with refining and revising things.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where do you find that most of your couples are at? Like, are you traveling around more in the region? Are you staying here in Billings mostly?
Yeah, I'm in Billings for the most part. Yeah. I feel like there are several venues, and I think you kind of have to prove yourself to like these venues as well, and like prove that like you are respectful of their space and how they want things done, and they appreciate that so much too. So I feel like once I've worked at a venue, I continue to go back to that venue a lot, whether it's a guest who was there and they saw like my work, or whether it's the venue recommending me. So yeah, there's 3 in town in particular that I could just think of off the top of my head where I'm kind of like, going through between those 3. So, but that's not to say that I won't go anywhere.
Right.
And I have my goals always in line for, what I'd like to do next year and the year after that. And yeah, I would like to travel some more. I'd like to check out, there's so many beautiful venues in this state now.
There is.
Which wasn't always the case, but now I'm like, there's just so many gorgeous places to get married.
Yes.
So yeah, I'd like to spread my wings a little bit and, get out there some more. But,
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll take you with us all around the
Oh,
state.
I'd love it. Yeah, let's do it. I'm in.
Yeah, we love traveling all over. And
Right?
it's great to have someone that you trust designing it. I do feel like a lot of couples try to take that on themselves
Yeah.
to do the design of everything.
And then it falls flat.
It's kind of like, I liken it to purchasing a brand new, beautiful home. And, you're doing all these really, high-end finishes on the home. And then you come in with like your IKEA build-it-yourself furniture. Nothing against IKEA. I have IKEA stuff in my own house. But it's like, it just needs to match the feel. And sometimes it's funny, I see my brides will send me their Pinterest board, which is, I have a love-hate with Pinterest. But, it's a $30,000 wedding that they're showing me on not a $30,000 budget, and we're trying to kind of bring these things together. And so it's just kind of having those realistic expectations as well, Sorry, I digress. I'm going
You're
off.
right.
But it's just a matter of like bringing it all together and making it work.
Yeah. Are there any other like misconceptions you feel like brides have or things that you run into a lot? Questions that you're always answering?
Again, time and what it really takes to make it happen is huge. And I think like having someone who has the experience is so big in this industry. What vendors you've worked with before and what their role is, you can count on them. So having that knowledge is invaluable. Like I was mentioning the venues, having someone, I know that you're not going to put command strips up in some of these venues. And, I've had a bride who said, oh, my mom and my aunt are going to do it. Well, just so happened that she called me. Well, I didn't know that they wouldn't let us put up command strips. Do you have any ideas? It's like the day of her wedding. The bride is calling me. I'm like, well, look, you didn't hire me.
Yeah.
I don't really know what to tell you at this point. She said, well, I didn't know. I'm like, well, yeah, exactly. I know these little things that, there's certain venues where it doesn't matter if you have a hurricane or a, glass chimney. They don't want an open flame, but, someone didn't know that, so they can't light the candles and, just things like that I'm like, yeah, it's just hiring someone who has that experience.
Yeah.
It's big. It's huge. But yeah, I think just the amount of time and effort that goes into these weddings, even like loading my trailer. I mean, to prep, like I mentioned, a glass cylinder, that goes over the top of like a tapered candle, which a lot of venues require so that you don't have an open flame. I have to use a heat gun, to get all the wax off of it, get it prepped. I have to hand wash it. I mean, it takes a tremendous amount of time. So it's just like the prep of getting all of that ready. I always joke, inevitably, there's always people eating off the charger plates. Every single wedding, I'm like, there's always one. And there's usually more than one, but I'm like, oh man. So I'm hand washing chargers. It's all the things. I don't like wrinkles. I'm steaming everything. It's just, I'm a perfectionist almost to a fault where I'm like, okay, I got to let some of this stuff go. But it's just important. It's important to me, so I assume it's important to my couple. So it's just all the prep. And then when they're done and they're kicking up their feet, I'm not done. I'm starting over and I'm rewashing these. I'm getting the wax off the cylinders and starting all over. But, and again, I think just the cost, what it really costs to produce these weddings. Again, I mentioned Pinterest. I struggle with it a little bit because I think it gives, there's these grandiose, like beautiful weddings that, yeah, I would love to give you that if your budget is in line, with what you're showing me. Mm-hmm. And more often than not, it's not, so I have to say like, okay, but again, like using my expertise, I can say, well, here's where we should focus, like, and here's where we can scale back. And I didn't always know that. There was things that I look back on my first year, I'm like, man, that really didn't matter, But I didn't know. And I always say, like, you get one shot at this. When it's done, it's done. So let's just do it right, because again, I go back to what if you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
So by the time the wedding's done, you're like, oh, I wish we would have done X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I think, there are some misconceptions, but it's mostly just the time and the energy and the effort, and budgeting. So
are there any design-wise trends that you're really excited about, or trends that maybe you're seeing that a lot of brides are doing right now?
Yeah. And I want to be careful with how I answer this. I don't want to insult anyone who has maybe chosen a trend, but there's definitely things that are on the way out. And this isn't a knock to Montana because I'm a Montanan through and through, but we are a couple years behind as far as the industry, and the trends go. But certainly the things that are on their way out are, and it's always what people tag me in on like a marketplace, this is for sale. Do you want it? I'm like, nope. The short answer is no, I don't want it. But I think we're going away from, for one, like that ultra boho or ultra farmhouse, really rustic, shabby chic, reclaimed. I think we went really far one direction, and now I'm hoping we've kind of landed somewhere in the middle. But if that's my couple's choice, and if that's what they love, absolutely, because I want their wedding to reflect them. So it's all about them, and if they want that, absolutely, that's what I'm going to deliver for them. If they ask my opinion and say hey, what do you think about this? I might offer a tweak. Here's a new tweak on an old, an older trend. Let's try this and tell me what you think. And if they like it, great. If not, if we stick with whatever they wanted from the beginning, absolutely, I'm there for them, and I'm there to deliver what speaks to them. So those are there are definitely things on the way out. On the way in, disco, which is super fun. I'm actually doing a pink and orange disco theme coming up, which I'm super excited about. That's in May. Cool. Yeah, and I've already I just have a lot of things going with that one. I'm excited about it. So all things disco. A trend I just was reading about, and I thought it was super interesting. And at first I'm like, but it's actually doing away with wedding parties, which sounds crazy, but just having a best man and a maid of honor, and that's it. And it's especially for couples maybe who are getting married a little bit later in life, and they've been in 12 weddings themselves, and then they almost feel that obligation to reciprocate and have this, I was in your wedding, you be in mine kind of thing.
Right.
They have these wedding parties that are 15, on each side. And I'm like, oh my gosh, your head table takes up it's half your guest list. So kind of going away from that too. I found interesting in asking couple or your entire, all your guests to wear a certain color. Yeah. Which I love.
Yeah. So then if you want your group part, you want to, your friends from college, you want a group picture with them, it still looks curated, it still looks beautiful, but there's not that obligation to be in a wedding party.
Right. Unless matchy, if you do have your bridal party. I mean, when I got married, I'm sorry to my bridesmaids, they had matching dresses. They were all the exact same. They were strapless, which didn't work for all of them. They had matching shoes and necklaces. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, girls. 20 years ago, that was a thing. Yeah. Now it's you wear your own shoes, you wear a dress, here's the color palette, you pick the fabric that works for you, the style that works for you.
For your body type and everything.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. It's not, so much pressure. And I think that's lovely. But I'm doing a wedding in June, and I love this. The bride has chosen, instead of all of her florals, actually, each flower means something to that bridesmaid.
Oh my gosh,
which
love that.
I absolutely think is a beautiful idea. She said whether it's the meaning of the flower or something, that just sparks a memory with that bridesmaid. So, it's just going to be this cool. I don't know. It's all going to work together, and come together. But it means something, and I think that. Is really on trend too. Just really, even with desserts. So say if you don't want a wedding cake anymore, you don't have to have a wedding cake.
And
forever it was well, I need a wedding cake because, my Aunt Martha loves wedding cake or whatever it may be, and it's like, no, not anymore. Like, if you love donuts, you do the donut truck or whatever you want to do. Like, it needs to speak to you, and there's really no rules.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Yeah, that there's not, like, it's almost a trend to go away from trends and make it so personal.
Yes.
And I love, I don't know if that's a trend, but I love that that's the wedding industry.
Absolutely. There's more color in the wedding industry, which I love. Don't get me wrong, I love a neutral color palette. My own home, I'm all about the neutrals.
Yeah.
It is. But I love, like, people are willing to take a risk. I love tone on tone. And if you are going with neutrals, to really mix it up with, like, your with the textures. So, like, bringing in, instead of like a white polyester linen, we bring in like a crinkle cut fabric or a Dupioni silk, or something that really brings like some texture and life to some dimension
It also
to the table.
photographs better than white polyester.
Yes, oh good. See, kill two birds with one stone. Yeah. So I love those trends. I think we're also trending away from all DIY. Because I think, again, we went really far in that direction for a while. And I think we have kind of come back to, like, those brides now are like, oh man, that was too much.
Right.
That was too stressful. I wouldn't do it again. So I think, we've learned from that as well. That there are experts in every field, every area of your wedding. So take advantage if you can. And, again, I always tell my couples, I'm like, prioritize, set your budget and stick with your budget. Absolutely. And prioritize. Like, if the food is ultra important to you and you want to have a plated meal, absolutely. Like, then put that at the top of your list. If the decor is incredibly important to you, put that at the top of your list, and like, because ultimately you probably will have to shave some areas, and, so you just have to prioritize, what you really want to make, what's really important to you. So.
I do like what you said though about like the trend of not having like a traditional bridal party. We have had those weddings where there's like 10 or 15 groomsmen and bridesmaids. It's kind of chaotic. And we've also had weddings where maybe they didn't have a bridal party, or it was just, maybe there was a best woman or a groomsman. That's what they call them, I think.
Yeah.
Or just like, if you're the bride and your best friend's a guy, like, have them be in your bridal party, or vice versa, you know what I mean? But I think those little things just make it a more cohesive experience that's true to who the couple is.
Yeah, and it's not like there's these rules that you have to follow. So many times I feel like it is like, people think, oh, I have to do it this way because that's how everybody else has done it. Well, it says who?
It says who.
Right? So I just feel like, do what you feel comfortable with. Like, do what makes you happy. This is your day. Anybody who has a problem with it, they can be on the B list. It's one of those things where I'm like, no, do what's all about you.
Yep. Yeah.
So.
And I think it's a trade-off though, like with bridal party, with big weddings versus small weddings. Like, do you want to have that big party? Do you want to have that small thing? And and what does your budget allow?
Absolutely.
Because more numbers mean more money.
More money.
So
yeah.
something that couples have to think about.
Absolutely.
Are there any other things you're excited about, like weddings you're involved in, like this year, or that you're looking forward to?
I'm excited about all of them. I have one coming up. Actually, they will be. It's up by Kalispell, actually.
Okay, cool.
By Swan Lake. So that one is exciting. Man, there's so many. I'm just trying to run through in my head like what I have coming up. I'm. Sorry, I'm excited for all of them. I don't feel like there's one, above the other.
Out.
Yeah, they're all so unique, and I'm so blessed. Like, my couples are so awesome, and I feel like they, people ask me, oh, have you had bridezillas? I'm like, no, I really don't get bridezillas. No. They're so appreciative because you are like, you're there like. I tell them, I'm your yes ma'am. Like, I'm here to problem solve and help you out and figure out a way to make this all happen and bring you that dream wedding. So I feel like they're all so appreciative and wonderful that, all my couples have been fantastic.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
We get the same question. We're
Right?
like, we don't get bridezillas.
You don't.
But I
yeah.
also think it's part of who you are that bridezillas are going to go running because they won't like appreciate your heart, and they won't appreciate they don't want somebody that how am I trying to say it? Because we don't either. And a lot of what you've said resonates with us because that's how we run our business. You give your whole heart, and those people don't necessarily understand that.
Right.
They understand somebody that will give everything, and you know that they're just like, that doesn't make sense, and so they go find somebody that more aligns with them.
Yeah. And that's where. Oh, excuse me.
Sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna say that's part of like the kind of the customized process. Like we're talking about having custom proposals. We do a similar thing. You know, you're always meeting with that couple beforehand, at least like a Zoom call or something to talk with them, and so you really get to know them. And I feel like if it's not a good fit, the couple can feel it, we feel it, and it just doesn't
force it.
It doesn't materialize, and then we don't get those couples that are super hard to work with usually.
No.
I mean,
it's enjoyable, the whole process. I'm like, no, it's good.
Yeah.
It's all good. And I mean, no, we're fine. I don't know what's happening over there, but over here in my lane, I'm good. Yeah, so it's been wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, unless there's something else you want to talk about or things that you wish couples knew, for you, is there anything else?
No, again, just kind of staying in line with prioritizing that budget and being realistic about that budget. And then, knowing that there's a lot happening behind the scenes that you aren't seeing. But I want it that way. If they hire me, that's how I want it. I don't want them to know if any problems arise or anything like that. Like, it should just be smooth sailing. They should think it was like, wow, that was the easiest day ever. That's how I want it to be for my couples. So
That's awesome.
Well, that's amazing too, because there's so many things that can and do go wrong on a wedding day.
Yeah.
And have someone like you who's just the advocate of the whole aesthetic and the design, like, because the couple has so much to worry about. Even the planner and other vendors, they're all doing their own thing. But have somebody that's just watching out, making sure everything looks.
Well, it's like these little things. I ask couples, if they do decide to DIY or go with somebody else or however they decide to do it, if, I'll mention, or they'll maybe mention things like, hey, I want to do a sparkler send off. Or, I'm like, okay, great. You do know that you can't light those giant sparklers with a match, right? Or with a lighter. And they kind of give me that deer in the headlight look, or, I'm like, no, you need a blowtorch if you want to light them all at the same time and make this work. Or just little things like, they'll tell me, oh, I'm going to order my linens on Amazon. Okay, make sure you take them out of the box, and you're going to spend a half hour on each one, like steaming it before. And then if you're going to serve any type of red wine or red sauce or anything, please don't count on reselling those. I'm not just, blowing smoke here. I'm genuinely telling you that they will all be stained and ruined. And, so again, it's just that experience. And, just letting them know, like, hey, I'm here. I'm your advocate. I'm like your best friend. And you'll get to keep your best friend after your wedding because they'll still like you, because you're not like yelling at them to do it all. Like, yell at me. You won't hurt my feelings. Like, I'm fine. I can handle it, So it's, just letting them know, like, my value and what I bring to the table.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Kelsey, thank you so much for coming on. We're excited for what you're doing. I think you have a cool lane in the industry that not a lot of people are doing. So we're excited to see where you go with things.
Yeah, we're excited to work with you at some
Yes,
point.
I know. I would love that. Absolutely love that. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you're welcome.